This is the continuation of Module 5. Now, my apologies with Module 5, first part, no, because it has two. The first part of Part 1 is too short, no, just an introduction actually of Module 5. And then the complete discussion is already in Module 5, Part 1, number 2, no, or Part 2 of Part 1. So this is completing the cycle of the merchandising business. So there's a need for physical count. Remember that under perpetual inventory system, or as really required by Bureau of Internal Revenue, that you have to submit your inventory, no, listing with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. This is a requirement. So in the periodic inventory system, purchases of merchandise are accumulated in the purchases account. Sorry, I haven't had a video. During the accounting period, no entry is made to the merchandise inventory account such that its balance at the end of the period before adjusting and closing entries is the same as the beginning inventory, with no perpetual record of the cost of sales during the period. The only way to obtain the cost of ending inventory is to make a physical count. It should be noted that the ending inventory amount is needed in the computation of the cost of sales. To recapitulate, ending inventory is deducted from the cost of goods available for sale to obtain the cost of sales or the cost of goods sold. The steps involved in the physical count follows. All merchandise owned by the entity is is counted, and the quantity counted is multiplied by the cost per unit, no, for each inventory. Take note, class, that it is the cost per unit, not the selling price. But if it's about the cost per unit is the price or the cost of the goods or the inventory when you purchase it from the supplier. The cost of various items are added to determine the total cost of inventory. The resulting total cost of inventory is the ending inventory already. This amount will appear as a deduction in the cost of sales section of the income statement that was shown in part 1 of module 5. And as a current asset. So of course, the ending inventory is also your current asset, replacing the merchandise inventory beginning or the previous year's merchandise inventory amount as of the balance sheet date. A reliable physical count is very significant because the ending inventory amounts affects both the income statement and the balance sheet. Remember? For example, an understatement of ending inventory 2018 income statement will cause an overstatement of cost of sales. In effect, gross profit and profit will be understated. The understatement of ending inventory in the current period means that the beginning inventory of the next period will also be understated. As a result of this error or omission, the current assets and owner's equity in 2018 balance sheet would be understated. In summary, an error in valuing inventory will translate into an inaccurate balance sheet and to incorrect income statement. So merchandise inventory at the end of the period, entries are made to reflect the inventory account. Of course, to replace the merchandise inventory amount that is reflected in the trial balance. The objectives of these entries are as follows: to remove the beginning balance of the merchandise inventory account and to transfer it to the income summary account. Of course, because you have to close this at the end of the accounting period. To enter the ending inventory in the merchandise inventory account and establish it in the income summary. So we have an illustration, no? So what would be its effect? Okay, the adjusting entry, there will be two methods, no, of closing entries, no, for merchandising. The adjusting entry method and the closing entry method. But what is acceptable always, class, would be the, or what is common is always the adjusting entry method. No, using the adjusting entry method, two entries indicated that the effects of A and B are prepared at the time the other entries are made as follows. So the income summary, 528, then to close, but remember, sa service concern, the first entry would be to close all the income accounts, and then the second procedure to close is to close all the expense account. And the third procedure is to close the income summary account to capital account, or whatever it would it be, a deduction to a capital account or increase to capital account depending on the results of the balance of the income summary, and also to close the withdrawal account to the capital account. So here, just the same, it is actually part of the closing of the first closing is the closing entries of all income accounts, no? That also the income that the or pwede, merchandise inventory, no, actually bali ini si dyan, no? Ini si dyan to expense account and to remove beginning balance of the inventory account. Actually, class income summary plus the expense account, the beginning inventory plus the expense account is the first set of adjusting entries. And the second part is to recognize, no? To recognize the merchandise inventory end, we simply debit merchandise inventory and we debit the income accounts, because remember, all accounts, no, to income accounts, and then credit to income summary account. So the same actually, no? Ini siya debit, debit, credit, credit, and siya style, no? Di ba remember, income has credit balances, at the temporary accounts with debit balances are expenses. Plus, of course, in addition to that, would be the accounts o pa aton mga purchases, no? Purchases are already debit balances. What else? Purchases, transportation in is also part, plus of course the expenses. And for the credit balances, you have the sales, debit balances, sales returns and allowances is also part here. So debit balances and the sales returns and allowances. But for those with credit balances, what are those? Accounts aside from merchandise inventory, and aside from the income accounts, we also have the purchases returns and allowances, purchases discounts. Okay? So those are, no? And of course, the other accounts that are maybe existing just like a service concern. But I will be having an example below. So the preparing of the worksheet, no? How do we prepare the worksheet under merchandising business? So instead of 10 columns, this time it's already 8 columns. For your examination, I will really require you. I think, class, it would be best if you're going to take the exam physically here in school, no? Basta I'll look into the possibilities of what we can do, because you will also be coming here to school for the enrollment, no? But of course, in consideration to those that are not here in Surigao, it would be difficult for them to travel. Some are even in Manila, and some are even abroad. So pwede rin siguro nakanda dito online. But it is also a requirement for you to prepare a worksheet physically that you are going to submit it to me. There is a school to check your work against what you have answered. Kaya basin, nangopera ka mo ng answer, ya ba dyan yung answer na worksheet sa natin mga journal, mga posting, mga trial balance, and etc. etc. No? So aside from for service concern, 10 columns, this time 8 columns na, tagtanggal ra ni dyan naton adjusted trial balance column. Automatic na si dyan. Extend whatever balances would be extended to income statement and the balance sheet columns, or the statement of financial position columns. So dyan gihapon adjustment, dapat adjustments column, no? Trial balance column, or this is the adjusted trial balance column. Then ini tatanggal na aton lagi adjusted trial balance is already omitted. And the income statement and the balance sheet columns will still be there. Okay, for you to have a reference dyan sa dini videos, no, for you, just click the video, just click the link for you to be directed to the videos. And here, this is an example of a worksheet of Gloria de Toya truck traders, no? So if you notice, the sales discounts, no, the income summary, the sales discount, those that are highlighted or naka-bold class are new accounts, no, in comparison with service, not on first part of BA1. So these are the new accounts, but of course, the sales and salaries and office salaries are expense are new for identical only for a merchandising business, but they are still salaries expense in service concern. Lamang kay they are classifying the accounts, the salaries for the store and for the office or sa admin functions. So ana ra siya, the same ra actually, lamang ka you have to take note the new accounts, no, how they are transferred or forwarded to the statement of income and the statement of financial position account. So financial statements, you have the nature of expense method and the function of expense method. Two methods. Okay. So what is actually being acceptable? We use the function of expense method. So Jari class actually is the pro forma, no? Pro forma of the statement, but do not forget that net sales is computed gross sales less sales returns and allowances and sales discounts before we arrive at net sales. So I have here an example of the Toya traders. You take note always how they are forwarded, how they are placed in the preparation of the accounts, no, within the columns. It's very important. So I have also here the statement of changes in equities. I've said, parehora actually sa ating service concern, no change, no? No additional account even is being introduced here. Only in the income statement and in the balance sheet are having new accounts, no? But what is new here is only the merchandise inventory account for the statement of financial position or the balance sheet. So closing entries, as I've said, ato na ako taglawang how. Aton first part, manaton how we recognize, ako tagbalisi dyan, no? Dili kay para dili maglibog, just like aton manggod sa discussion sa book class, nauna aton pag-close ng beginning inventory, then followed by the setup of the merchandise inventory end. But I twisted it to my example para more or less mag-guide na gihapon kamo dito sa service concern na mauna gadyon pag-close ang income, reserve pa mga expenses, no? So income, di ba remember, is sales and other debit balances, no? Are ito mga purchases, returns, and allowances of purchases, discounts are debit balances. Plus, of course, the income summary account. So merchandise inventory, this is a setup. And then for the second part, aton debit balances, aton mga expenses, but we have to close also at the same time the merchandise inventory end, ato i-credit, because the normal balance of the merchandise inventory is debit. So to close it, so we need to credit. And the sales returns allowances are credit balances, our debit balances, I mean, that's why we have to close, no, together with the merchandise inventory, purchases, transportation in and transportation out. So the same happen to close the income summary and to close the withdrawal account. Post-closing trial balance, pareho ra gihapon, no? It is a balance sheet in a trial balance form, pareho ra gihapon sa service concern. So worksheets sa perpetual inventory, mas ineno, ako example sa AJO, You take note na awaya na adton purchases, no? Why na purchases? Because they are replaced with merchandise inventory. And the cost of sales na unexistent, no? Wala na itong mga transportation in, wala na itong purchases, wala itong purchases, returns and allowances, purchases, discounts, because they were under perpetual inventory system, they were credited directly to merchandise inventory account. And purchases are debited to merchandise inventory accounts. So if you notice, the net income is still the same using perpetual or the periodic inventory system. So this, I have a problem here na vatable sija class, no? Para you would also have a glimpse on how to prepare the entries, combining all the VAT at the same time, periodic inventory system. Periodic ba yun ako example? Yeah, periodic because we have the purchases, returns, and allowances. No? And this time, in addition to that, kung VAT ka na business, you would be having input VAT and the output VAT. So I have here the example. Just browse it at your homes. You print, I think you have to print it so that you would be able to understand. This is a comprehensive problem. But of course, sa exam, appeal ka dyan ang VAT, no? Kaya para ka dyan ma-practice ka mo that there will always be VAT. So here is the ledger, no? Na dyan VAT. Ledger posting from the journal entries pa, di ba? And also the ledger after closing is also here. So that's why kinahanglan gud na ako ani upload ang video before you would be able to, before I will give you the exam. But the coverage of the exam really is from the beginning, from module 1 to module 5. But the best way really for to understand all this example that I gave you is really to print, and of course you can browse it. Diba? Okay, that's it, no? Ang nakataas na dito class is the example, the comprehensive example. I have the worksheet and everything here there for your reference. Thank you, thank you. So your exam will be activated on Saturday. Thank you. Saturday, not this coming Saturday. Happy Valentine's for tomorrow because this is recorded on February 13th. Thank you. Enjoy your day tomorrow.